Hi everybody, welcome back to Sunshine Soap and Candle Company. You may have seen a video I published last week or so about all the necessary tools you need to make your first batch of cold processed soap. In that video, I gave you some really budget-friendly tips and showed you exactly how I got started making my first batches of cold processed soap, and then I also told you that I would be showing you how I made it with tools similar to the tools that I used about 7 years ago when I made my first couple batches of soap. So today we're going to be making a batch of cold processed soap, and we're going to be pouring it into this half-gallon almond milk container that's just been modified to look like a soap mold. And we're going to be using some very basic tools because I wanted you guys to see that you can still make soap or practice making soap and kind of hone in your skills without a very big investment. So in this video today, I'm going to be sharing with you how to make a very simple cold processed soap with ingredients purchased from the grocery store, the hardware store, and also reusing materials like milk containers. All right, let's get started. Okay, so first things first. Last week I talked to you a little bit about safety and how important it is to protect your skin and your eyes from raw soap batter and your lye water solution. So before your soap turns into soap, it's very caustic. When it's in its liquid form, it can burn your skin or your eyes. So you want to make sure you have long sleeves, gloves, long pants, closed-toed shoes, and then I am using these safety goggles here. Glasses won't really cut it. You really do need something that is a safety goggle type thing with a lip on the bottom, just in case you get any soap batter that splashes up, it won't get into your eye. All right, so I will be sharing this recipe with you guys too in the description box below. This is a very, very simple recipe. This was one of the first soaps I ever made, or something very similar using the oils that I'm going to be sharing with you today. Okay, so I have my containers here, one containing my melted down oils and one containing my water and lye solutions. So this is a very beginner friendly recipe, and it also works as a really nice, effective, gentle cleansing soap. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about my oils. So today I'm using 5.5 ounces of olive oil. And I'm going to go ahead and list this recipe in the description box below so that you can recreate this for yourself. But we're using olive oil, 5.5 ounces, and you can use any type of olive oil that you like. It doesn't matter if it's extra virgin, virgin, olive oil pure, whatever you can find at the grocery store, whatever's cheapest, that's what you can use. And then olive oil has very gentle cleansing properties to it. It's a very, very skin-friendly oil that's nice for your skin. And then the next oil that we're using is canola oil. We're using 5.5 ounces of canola oil, and that's also a very inexpensive oil. You just pick it up at the grocery store. And the reason why we're using that oil is because it has a really nice, creamy, yet very bubbly lather. It does help to produce big bubbles, but it's also a very creamy oil once it's in the soap, and it just makes a really lovely bar of soap. And the last oil we're using in here is coconut oil. Now we're using the coconut oil that is solid at room temperature. And so again, that's just something you can pick up right at the grocery store. And it's an inexpensive oil, and it's actually an oil I use every single time I make cold processed soap because coconut oil is very, very good at cleansing your skin. And it also produces nice big fluffy lather. Bubbles. Okay, so everything's melted down, and then over here I have my lye and my water solution, and we are using 3.44 ounces of lye to 7.69 ounces of distilled water. Oh, and on the coconut oil we're using 11 ounces. So this is 50% coconut oil, 25% canola oil, and 25% olive oil. Okay, so all we're going to do is go ahead now. We're ready to create the soap. So when you're making cold processed soap, you always want to pour your water and lye solution into your oils, and then we're going to use our immersion blender. Now, this is the immersion blender that I use today. And I'll go ahead and put a link to it in the description box below as well. But when I very first started, I used a immersion blender that I got from the Goodwill, and it worked pretty good for several years. So it was a secondhand immersion blender, and it only cost me a few dollars. And remember when I said you just don't need that much equipment to get started, especially if you're trying to just learn how to do it and you don't know if you want to make a big investment into it. Picking up items like this at the hardware store and then your ingredients at the grocery store is just such a smart idea. And picking up your containers and your stick blender and your spatula at a secondhand store is a really good idea. So we are making soap today right around 100 degrees. Yep, we're sitting right at 99 degrees. I'm using my digital thermometer to go ahead and read the temperature there. And then we have the stick blender turned all the way to low, and we're just gonna lightly pulse the solution until we reach an emulsion. That means we won't see any floating oils. The oils and the water will be all combined. And as you can see, I'm just pulsing it, and then I'm alternating between hand stirring and pulsing. Okay, so I want to show you what that looks like right now. Trace refers to the ability to take the soap, stir it around, and then if you pick up a little bit of the soap and you run it across the top like that, let it drip across the top, if it leaves trace marks, or like if it leaves trace marks on top of the soap, you've reached what's called trace. And that's when your soap is starting to set up. And then there's different variations of trace. This right now is a very, very thin trace. It's the consistency of, I would say, a melted milkshake. And this is when I like to add my additives. So as you can see, there's no floating oils. It's turned opaque in color. And the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and add in some essential oil. Now, we're not using any color today, and you don't even have to use any type of fragrance or essential oil, but I'm going to show you some essential oil today because I'm using lavender. And lavender essential oil you can pick up from any grocery store or any health food store, and you can just pick up a little bit what you need to make your first batch of soap, and it's very inexpensive. But I'm not going to show you any color today because, again, I'm just trying to show you what you need to get started. Lavender is a popular fragrance as well, a popular essential oil to use when you're making soap. So we're using 1 ounce of lavender essential oil. And we're going to start by just stirring it in by hand. Lavender is also an essential oil that doesn't give you any problems when you're making cold process soap. It doesn't make your soap speed up, meaning you have time to work. It's not going to set up on you while you're mixing. It sticks really nicely in your finished soap, so you end up with a really nice smelling bar of soap. And it's an essential oil, which has lots of benefits, a multitude of benefits. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and put my spatula back down, and then we're going to blend this up a little bit more until we reach about a medium or medium thick trace, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so we have reached about a medium thick trace. I want to show you what the consistency looks like now. As you can see, it's still pretty fluid, but you're getting definite trace marks on top of the soap. And since we're not using a very sturdy mold today, I think I'm actually going to blend this up just a little bit more so that my soap is a little bit on the thicker side when we pour it into that mold. Just a little bit more. Okay. have this almond milk container here that I've taped up with packing tape on the sides, and I fashioned it into a soap mold. Now we're making a total of 2 pounds of soap today, or 32 ounces. And then all I'm going to do is slowly pour it into this soap mold. And then another tip here is just to go ahead and make sure you scrape out your container the best you can, because it'll make your cleanup a lot easier and you're not wasting any of that beautiful soap that you just made. And then I'm just going to pick up my mold and tamp it down just a little bit. I'm getting all the air bubbles to the top of my soap. And then as you can see, I've got a little bit of bulging going on with this mold because of course it's just a little flimsy cardboard. So I'm going to show you how to remedy that. Okay, so all you need are 2 books. So, you know, kind of a thick book that's going to stand up on its own. And you just want to push the books in like this. And then if you have something nearby to kind of keep the books in place, like, let's see. So this book is standing up perfectly on its own, but this back one wants to kind of fall. It's just not as thick as the other one. So I'm just going to prop it up with my little bottle of rubbing alcohol here, just to keep it in place. Now you can make a little design on the top with a skewer or any type of, you can use a chopstick or a skewer, but I'm just going to put a little swirl on the top. I'm just going to do a little figure 8 swirl right across the top. And I'm actually going to use my rubbing alcohol to spray the top just so that we prevent any soda ash. Soda ash is basically like sodium bicarbonate that sometimes can form on top of the soap as it is exposed to the air. And rubbing alcohol can help prevent that from forming. So it's not necessary. There's nothing wrong with soda ash. Nothing's going to happen to your soap if it does form. But aesthetically, it's nicer to just have no soda ash on the top of your soap. Okay, so we're gonna let this soap set up for about 24 hours, and then we're gonna come back to unmold it and cut it and show you what it looks like. Okay, everybody, we're back to go ahead and cut this gorgeous lavender soap. So it's been about 24 hours, and all we're gonna do is just pull away the sides of the milk carton here. So we're just pulling away the sides just to give it, and then I'm just pushing up on the bottom, flipping it upside down. And I did bring some scissors if we have to break this mold away at all, which we may need to. Okay, so we're just gonna tear away this makeshift mold here. Go. And it's made a really lovely, creamy looking hard bar of soap already. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and cut my soap into slices, but I wanted to show you another little trick to clean up the edges too. So when you have an entire loaf like this and you have some jagged edges, you can just take a potato peeler and go down the entire length of the soap. It's easier this way than to go each individual bar, I think. So I'm just cleaning up my edges here with a potato peeler. Okay. This soap smells amazing. And then as you can see, I have a little mark here also from the milk carton and a mark here from the milk carton. This one I'm going to slice off with my cutter. This one I'm just going to kind of plane it again with my potato peeler and just get a nice flat edge. There you go. So what we're going to do is slice this. I'm going to be using this crinkle cutter. I think I picked this up at a food supply store. If you have a food supply store close to you, you can probably pick one up there. Otherwise, these are probably available at your local craft store. And we're just going to go ahead and slice this into probably about 1-inch slices or so, but I'm going to go ahead and take this rough edge off here. There we go. See that? Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and slice into about 1-inch bars. And there you go. Now these have to sit in a cool and dark area for 4 weeks so that they cure all the way out. That will make the bar, that'll evaporate all the excess liquid in this bar, and it'll make it nice and hard and long lasting. And this will give you a nice, fluffy, creamy, and very luxurious feeling lather. So that's it, everybody. That's how you make a beautiful essential oil soap with tools and materials from your local grocery store and hardware store. I hope you really liked this video. I hope it inspired you. I hope you learned something. If you did, please remember to give this video a thumbs up. Please leave a comment or question below. Share this video with a friend and subscribe to my channel. All right, catch you in the next video. Bye. Keep shining.